The mosquito that bit you last night is already gone, and it took nothing from you that matters. A drop of blood you will replace before lunch. Odds are she was an Aedes mosquito, the most common backyard biter, doing exactly what female Aedes do. So here is the part that should stop you cold. The welt on your arm, the one you have been clawing at since 3 in the morning, was not made by her. You made it. Your own body built that itch, brick by brick, attacking a ghost she left behind. I need you to sit with that, because it changes everything about how you make it stop. For years I did what you probably do with every mosquito bite. I scratched. I clawed until the skin went white and shiny. I chased it with a cold cream from the drawer that smelled like a hospital and did almost nothing. And I told myself there was simply no way to switch off a mosquito bite. I was wrong. There is a way. It works in under a minute, and it costs you nothing but the courage to try something that feels completely backwards. By the end of this, you will know exactly what to do the next time a bite flares up, and why the entire shelf of pink lotions and afterbite pens has been selling you comfort instead of a cure. But first you have to understand the enemy, and the enemy is not the mosquito. It is a tiny, panicking overreaction happening a few layers under your skin. Let me start with how serious this actually is, because we treat a mosquito bite like a summer annoyance, and then we make it genuinely dangerous with our own fingernails. When you scratch a bite hard enough to break the skin, and most of us do in our sleep, without knowing, you tear open the one barrier standing between your body and the bacteria living on your hands. That is how a harmless welt becomes an infection. The medical literature is blunt about the aftermath of chronic scratching. Excoriations, scarring, and hyperpigmentation, those brown marks on the ankles and shins that never seem to fade. The itch is temporary. The scar you dig into your own leg is not. Now, here is what is actually happening under there, because once you see it, the right fix becomes obvious. When a mosquito feeds, she is not just taking, she is giving. To keep your blood from clotting and jamming her needle, she injects a little saliva first, a cocktail of proteins, anticoagulants, and specific allergenic proteins researchers call D7 proteins. That saliva is the ghost. Your immune system has no idea what it is, decides it is an invader, and sounds every alarm it has. What is happening formally is a type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, the same immediate allergic response that drives hay fever and food allergies. The molecule at the center of that alarm is histamine. Some of it comes right out of her saliva, and a lot more your own mast cells dump into the tissue. Histamine floods the nerve endings, locks onto their histamine receptors, and screams one word at your brain: itch. At the same time, it swells the blood vessels and leaks fluid into the skin, and that is the welt, the raised bump doctors call a wheal, ringed by that red flare. If the reaction runs a little slower, you may also notice a firmer papule that lingers after the wheal fades. That is the late phase response settling in. The bump is not venom, it is a puddle of your own inflammation. And here is the detail that explains why nothing you have tried fully works. There is not one itch pathway. There are at least 3. There is the histamine road, the direct one. There is a second road where your own antibodies, and the ones called IgE, grab the mosquito's saliva and use it to trip your mast cells, those little cells packed with inflammation, and they burst open and dump even more histamine into the tissue. And there is a third road that skips histamine entirely and burns the itch with a different family of inflammatory signals altogether. That is exactly why an antihistamine pill helps, but never quite finishes the job. It blocks one road while the traffic quietly reroutes onto the other 2. You cannot understand a mosquito bite as one thing going wrong. It is 3 overlapping alarms, all screaming the same word at once. There is one more twist worth knowing because it explains something strange about bites over a lifetime. This whole overreaction is learned. The first time your body meets mosquito saliva, it barely knows what to do, which is why a very young child or a traveler who lands somewhere they have never been bitten before can react in odd, delayed, or oversized ways. With repeated bites over the years, your immune system tunes its response, and for many people, it eventually calms down and stops making such a fuss. So the welts that tortured you as a kid may be milder now, not because the mosquitoes changed, but because your body finally stopped panicking. The itch was never really about the insect. It was always a conversation happening inside you. This is also why the person next to you can shrug off a bite while you swell up like you were stung by something far worse. It runs in families. The size of the reaction and the intensity of the itch carry a hereditary streak, and they simply hit harder in some people than in others. If you have allergies, hay fever, eczema, what doctors lump together under one word, atopy, you are far more likely to blow up into large, angry, long-lasting bites. In one look at big local reactions, atopy showed up in more than a third of the cases and only about a tenth of the calm reactors. And if your immune system is weakened for any reason, the reactions can run bigger still. It is not that you are unlucky or that mosquitoes have singled you out for cruelty. Your alarm system is simply set louder than everyone else's, and it fires the same alarm over a threat that was never really there. So here is the shift that changes everything, and it is the exact opposite of what the afterbite aisle sells you. Every cream on that shelf whispers the same promise. Soothe it, cool it, calm it down slowly over the afternoon. But you cannot uninject the saliva. It is already in there. No lotion reaches into the tissue and neutralizes it, so you stop trying to erase the cause and you go straight for the wire instead, the nerve signal itself. You do not soothe the itch, you override it. And the fastest, cheapest way to override it is the one thing that sounds insane on a hot, inflamed bite: heat. Here is exactly how to do it, and I want you to try it tonight, because the science only matters if you can put it to work on the next bite. Step 1 is heat, and it is the closest thing to a switch that exists. Run a metal spoon under water as hot as your tap will go. Hot enough that you can just barely hold it. And press the back of it flat against the bite for a few seconds. Not long enough to burn, just hot enough to sting slightly. In a large real-world study of over 12,000 insect bites, concentrated heat cut mosquito bite itch by 57% within 1 minute and by 81% within 5 to 10 minutes. In a controlled trial, a device holding the skin at about 50 degrees Celsius for a few seconds dropped the itch to under a fifth of where it started. Why does burning hot heat kill an itch? Because you are drowning out the signal. The heat fires the skin's pain nerves, the fast, sharp ones, through a receptor called TRPV1, the same ion channel that responds to actual burns and to capsaicin in hot peppers. Those nerves share the same crowded wiring that carries the itch. Your brain can only listen to so much at once, so the loud heat pulse walks in and buries the quiet, maddening itch pulse underneath it. There is likely a second effect stacked on top. The heat may partly cook and warp those foreign saliva proteins and calm the very receptors that were reading them. You do not need to hold any of that in your head. You need to remember the spoon, and a warning, because it matters, hot, not scalding. You want the spoon hot enough to make you flinch and pull back after a couple of seconds, never hot enough to leave a burn. You are interrupting a nerve, not branding yourself. If the itch creeps back an hour later, and sometimes it will, you simply do it again. It is not a one-time cure. It is a reset button you can press as often as you need. And if you are someone who gets bitten every single summer, the exact same idea comes packaged in a cheap little gadget about the size of a pen. The ones sold as Bite Away or Therapik, that presses one clean, measured pulse of heat into the skin at the push of a button. Same physics as the spoon. None of the guessing about how hot is too hot. Step 2 is for when heat is not an option, a bite on a child, or you are away from a hot tap. Then flip to the other end of the dial, cold. Press an ice cube or a cold pack on it for about 10 minutes. Cold works on a different nerve channel. The cool sensor called TRPM8, the counterpart to the TRPV1 receptor heat activates. And firing it quiets the itch the same way heat does, by handing your brain a louder competing signal. Heat is stronger and faster in the studies, but cold is the reliable backup, and it has the bonus of shrinking the swelling. Step 3 is the one that actually reaches the inflammation, and this is where a pill beats a cream. An oral antihistamine, plain cetirizine, 10 milligrams, the same allergy tablet in every pharmacy, is proven in controlled trials to shrink both the welt and the itch. If cetirizine is not on hand, diphenhydramine, the original Benadryl, works on the same histamine pathway and is in virtually every medicine cabinet. In children, loratadine cut the itch by nearly 80% and the welt by almost half. Take it early, especially if you know you are a big reactor, and it works from the inside on that histamine road while the heat handles the wire. If the bite is puffy and inflamed, a thin layer of 1% hydrocortisone on top calms the swelling. Notice what is missing from step 3, the fancy branded after-bite gel. A basic antihistamine tablet you already own does more than the pen the checkout aisle wants to sell you. Step 4 is free, and it is the hardest one. Do not scratch. I know, but every drag of a fingernail keeps the fire lit and inches you toward broken skin and infection. Keep your nails short, especially on the kids, and if a bite does get torn open, wash it right then with soap and water and cover it. The heat, the cold, the pill. They exist so you do not have to scratch. Use them and take your hands out of the fight. And while we are saving you from yourself, here is what to stop wasting time on, because half of these tricks make the bite worse. The old one of pressing a hard X into the welt with your fingernail does nothing at all but tear the skin. It is the exact scratch you were told not to do, wearing a clever disguise. And it walks you straight toward the infection you were trying to avoid. Spit on the bite belongs in your grandmother's kitchen and only smears a fresh coat of bacteria across broken skin. A splash of alcohol or hand sanitizer feels cool for a second as it evaporates, then dries the skin out and irritates it, and there is no evidence it touches the itch at all. Toothpaste, essential oils, a dab of peppermint. The same story, little to no evidence, mostly the placebo of doing something. And then there is the big, gentle middle of the shelf, baking soda paste, pink calamine lotion, aloe. These will not hurt you. They are mild and soothing, and there is a reason your medicine cabinet has always held them. But the science under them is thin, and none of them reach into the tissue to end the reaction. Use them as a soft second layer if you like the feel of them. Just do not expect a smear of calamine to do what a hot spoon and a $2 tablet will do in a minute. The point is not that comfort is wrong. The point is that you have been handed comfort and told it was a cure. Step 5 is knowing when a bite has stopped being a bite. Most welts fade in a day or two, but sometimes one balloons, a hard, hot, itchy patch anywhere from 2 to 10 centimeters across, sometimes with a low fever. That is a real allergic reaction, and it has a name, Skeeter syndrome. It looks alarming, but it runs its course in 3 to 10 days and responds to the same antihistamines. The one you have to separate it from is infection, cellulitis, because they look almost identical. The tell is the clock. An allergic reaction blows up within hours, while an infection creeps in over days. So go see a doctor if the swelling spreads wide across the limb, if you see pus or red streaks pushing out from the bite, if a fever shows up in the week or two after, and immediately if you ever have trouble breathing. Those are rare, but they are the line where a home remedy ends and medicine begins. So look at the two worlds side by side, because the contrast is the whole point. In one world, you keep a drawer full of pink lotions and battery-powered pens. You smear on something that half works, and you scratch through the night until the welt scars over, and you buy the same drawer again next summer. In the other world, you have a metal spoon, an ice cube, and a $2 strip of allergy tablets. You kill the itch in under a minute, and you leave no mark behind. One world sells you comfort over and over, forever. The other one just ends it. So here is what I want you to do. Tell me down in the comments what you have been using on your bites all these years. The pink lotion, the after bite pen, the fingernail X your grandfather swore by, and whether you are willing to try the hot spoon tonight. I read them, and I want to know if this works for you the way it finally worked for me, and if this made the invisible part make sense, if you will never look at that welt the same way again. Subscribe, because I take the things we all put up with and I show you the way out. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.